tried to break free, you tried to keep me down. I tried to live right, you tried to keep me down. But now I'm going up, I'm moving high then. Anywhere that I've been before, I'm flying, man. It's kinda crazy, like my feet are lifting off the ground. I'm touching heaven with my hands now to get the sound. But though I'm flying, my head is still level, and I won't be bound down to hear the whispers of the devil. Now the future is here, and it looks real bright, and it can be yours too if you set your path right. I know life can be hard, but you were put here to win. Just refuse to quit when you're down and get back up again. Man, I used to rap my music from my tiny bedroom, and though I dreamt of being free, I felt trapped like in a tomb. And even though the times were dark and I could barely even see through all the tears, I sit and pen, weave out my destiny. But now the days are gone where I would listen to the critic counting me out before they ran up for analytics. I'm here to stay, just like a necklace waiting to be pearled, and I'm going up the chorus as I'm singing with the world. Look up, live free, dream big, and see. The world is yours, the world is yours. Give all you have to give. The world is yours, the world is yours. I tried to break free, you tried to keep me bound. I tried to live right, you tried to keep me down. But now I'm going up, I'm moving high then. Anywhere that I've been before, I'm flying, man. It's kinda crazy, like my feet are lifting off the ground. I'm touching heaven with my hands now to get the sound. But though I'm flying, my head is still level, and I will be bound down to hear the whispers of the devil. Now the future is here, and it looks real bright, and it can be yours too if you set your path right. I know life can be hard, but you were put here to win. Just refuse to quit when you're down and get back up again. Man, I used to write my music from my tiny bedroom, and though I dreamt of being free, I felt trapped like in a tomb. And even though the times are dark and I can barely even see through all the tears, I sit and pen, weave out my destiny. But now the days are gone where I would listen to the critics who counted me out before they ran a proper analytics. I'm here to stay, just stop. Look up, live free, dream big, and see. The world is yours, the world is yours. Give all you have to give. The world is yours, the world is yours. I tried to break free, you tried to keep me bound. I tried to live right, you tried to keep me down. But now I'm going up, I'm moving high then. Anywhere that I've been before, I'm flying, man. It's kinda crazy, like my feet are lifting off the ground. I'm touching heaven with my hands now to get the sound. But though I'm flying, my head is still level, and I won't be bound down to hear the whispers of the devil. Now the future is here, and it looks real bright, and it can be yours too if you set your path right. I know life can be hard, but you were put here to win. Just refuse to quit when you're down and get back up again. Man, I used to rap my music from my tiny bedroom, and though I dreamt of being free, I felt trapped like in a tomb. And even though the times were dark and I could barely even see through all the tears, I sit and pen, weave out my destiny. But now the days are gone where I would listen to the critics who counted me out before they ran the proper analytics. I'm here to stay, just like a necklace waiting to be pearled, and I'm throwing up the chorus as I'm singing with the world. Live free, dream big, and see that the world is yours, the world is yours. All you have to give, 'cause the world watch all of the things you do. I hate to break it to you, not everyone wants the best view. Who try to take the dream inside you, they see they're flat out jealous and envy all the things you will be. Yeah, just hold your head up, man, and keep on moving on. If I would've never struggled, then I wouldn't have this song. But don't get me wrong, no need to stack up your strife. You gotta watch the ones who you let speak straight into your life. Cause the artists, they will sing you all their fancy little songs with the funny little beats and all the catchy sing-along. But the messages they give are not the kind you should be fed. It's a recipe of lies they try to get out in your head. Yeah, I see some rap sold to souls, I won't be selling mine. No need to find a source when you're eating from the vine. You thought that I was done, but now I'm leaving you behind. Wouldn't say I deserve it, but I'm here to get what's mine. They're free, dream big, and see that the world is yours. The world is yours. All you have to give. The world is yours. The world is yours. Good, live right, no fear tonight. The world is yours. The world is yours.
Right, so some people are still outside celebrating and having coffee, but we decided we start, otherwise the whole program will slip away and we get into trouble. So the next speaker is a charming lady from Britain, Carmen, and we just talked a little bit, how shall I introduce you? And I have a couple of words here like work-life brilliance, she said. It's different from work-life balance. It certainly is about social skills, but to be quite honest, I really don't have much of an idea what you will be talking about.
Nor do I.
I know it will be very interesting. Carmen, please take it away.
Hello. Welcome. I hope everyone comes back from coffee soon so they can enjoy this. Hello everyone, I'm Kate, and I'm from London, and I'm here to talk to you about this, building resilience in a 21st century world. Why? Well, I think that things are happening now. Events are unfurling before our very eyes that are having a huge impact on how we're feeling and how we're working and what we're putting out into the world. And I think it's incredibly important, more than ever before, that we really start thinking about how we are living, how we are working, how we're going about our everyday lives, and actually evolving that to reflect the circumstances we're experiencing. Now, specifically, why am I talking about this stuff in front of you guys? Because you're the leaders of the future, right? And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk through the things that we're experiencing and seeing within organisations within London and the greater world beyond us, but also to share with you some tips as well, things that we see, that we understand how things could work better. And the reason being, as I said, if you're going out into the world, you're the ones that are going to be making this change. And I really see you guys as the ones that are going to drive this forward. So I'm really excited to share it with you. And I genuinely hope that it's the thing that can make a difference in all of our lives. So let me tell you a little bit about me, first of all. I'm Kate, as I said, and I am the founder of Push. Now, I started Push 5 years ago now, 5 years this week, which is incredibly exciting. I can't quite believe it. And Push is a well-being and performance company. And everything that we do is about helping people, teams and companies work better. Or, as we like to put it, try and make them a little bit more human. Now, the reason being is prior to starting Push, I actually worked in advertising, and I loved working in advertising. But the problem with it was that actually over a period of time, I did it for 16 years, and towards the end of that time working in advertising, I actually ended up being signed off with stress. Whereas it was something previously that had totally aligned with my values, actually over that period of time I changed a bit, media changed a bit, and lying at the heart of my work, that misalignment was causing me stress. And then on top of that, so many different situations were happening. And it is what I learned from that, and what I could see was that I genuinely thought that things should work better, because I could see this stuff happening to more and more people around me, more and more people being affected by overwhelm, more and more people being affected by anxiety, more and more people being affected by stress. And I really felt that not only did I want to understand it, but that I wanted to do something about it. And that's where Push was born, a genuine desire to create change. Because I think that the way that we're working right now really isn't working, right? Within the organisations that we go and speak to, and the organisations that I know that you guys are going to be the leaders of, there is a problem. Because what we're doing in these organisations is we've got really old practices, as someone so beautifully put it earlier. You know, we have old practices and old and traditional ways of working that just don't blooming work anymore. And on top of that, we put technologies that really expand our capacity to work. And the problem is we've still got exactly the same mindset and exactly the same behaviours, and people are burning out. We're getting to a state where people are becoming sick. And we have to do something about that, because the challenge that we have, despite living in this modern world, we've still got exactly the same brains that we had previously. We have brains that are essentially Neanderthal, right? We have exactly the same reaction to stress or reaction to feeling unsafe that we had back then. But back then, it was a saber-toothed tiger or man with a club running up behind us and making us feel unsafe, putting us in danger. And it was then that we'd either have to fight our way out of it, or we'd have to flee and we'd have to run away. We still have exactly the same reaction now, but it happens so much more regularly because it's a looming deadline or a conversation with a boss or an argument with a loved one, which is putting us into stress mode. And it is that overproduction of cortisol and adrenaline which is wreaking havoc on our brains and our bodies. 77% of people in the last year said that they had experienced mental ill health, right? And this is the stuff that you guys are the ones that can go on and change. Let me show you what I mean by mental ill health, first of all. When I talk about mental health, it's not only the more obvious illnesses, so things like PTSD, bipolar, personality disorder, everything we know about mental illness. The greatest challenge, because of this overwhelm, because of this anxiety, because of this stress, is that we have poor mental well-being. And actually, that is the thing that all of us can affect. I like to keep these things really simple when I talk about them. And I think the thing is that we've got a bit of an energy crisis, each of us individually. We are entities of energy, right? We have energy coming in and we have energy that we expel. And I don't think we've got enough energy coming in to deal with what we need to do. To show you what I mean, if you think about it, our personal energy is affected by the stuff that we do, right? It's the stuff that we put in. And at the moment, all of the demands on our time, our work, our people, our tech, and then our poor Neanderthal brains overthinking it all, it can't cope with that. So we have to get better. I think we've got a chance to make a real change if we improve the rituals of energy that we put in. And this is the stuff that all of you, at the stage in your life that you are, it's so brilliant to learn, because it's the stuff that's going to influence your whole lives. Because I think that actually there are two entities who are responsible for our energy capacity. The organisations, i.e. the companies and the schools and the buildings that we work within. but also each of us as individuals, and we can all affect our energy levels. Let me show you what I mean. Organisations, be that schools, be that companies, all have got a responsibility now to energise their employees rather than just draining their energy, which is where I think we are currently. And what I mean by that is that actually we have to realise that the only difference between any company is the individuals that are in it. It is the individuals that create differences within those organisations. So we have to put them first, rather than the expectation that the company runs everything. And if we put those individuals first, then we create environments that energise those people rather than take their energy away. And what I mean by that is empowering people, trusting them, creating spaces where we can be honest and we can be vulnerable in order to get to a place where we can be bold, where we can be brave, where we can be creative, where we can be innovative. And currently, in many places that isn't happening because people genuinely do not feel safe enough to be at their best. The other part of it, though, is that actually each of us as individuals really have to get good at understanding ourselves. The one thing I would share with you, and the one thing that I've realised over the last 5 years from the place where I was signed off with stress because I was breaking myself in the way that I was behaving, is that knowing your own mind is the greatest gift in the world, right? When you understand yourself, you've got superpowers. I know Simon touched on this earlier, you know, in understanding himself, he could work out exactly what it was that he wanted. If we get us, if we understand how we work, then we can develop ourselves and we can manage ourselves better and have the tools to get truly brilliant rather than just existing. And existing is pretty rubbish. Just existing is pretty rubbish. And I know for a fact, you know, that for me is why I created the company, because I wanted to make sure that no one else felt like that. Because I think that actually the same stuff, to a greater or lesser degree, is going to happen in all of our lives, right? It's how you respond to it that makes the difference. And the one thing that we can control is how we react. Not to the things that are happening, but how we react to them. That's the thing that we can make different. That's the thing that we can change. And more importantly, our perceptions of things that are happening. That is where you have control and where you can make a difference in your own lives. And in order to have that energy, then the place where you get to a place, the place where you get to an instance where you truly have superpowers as a human is understanding that energy comes from so many different places, not just one source, but so many different places. Your physical energy, your emotional energy, your mental energy, and your social energy, i.e. your purpose, which of course Simon spoke a lot about earlier. And what I'm going to do now, and this is where I come down to the practical tips, is I'm going to share with you all of them exactly what they are, where I believe we are at the moment, and the differences that you guys can make. So, first of all, on to physical energy. Now, this is the obvious one, right? This is the foundations of how we live. It's making sure you have enough food. It's making sure you have enough rest, enough exercise, and enough sleep. And if I said to any of you, do you think that you currently are looking after yourself, that you're getting your physical energy? What would your answer be? Would it be yes? No? Are you getting enough sleep? Enough rest? Enough exercise? No, no, I am definitely not. And that's the problem, right? Because this is the foundation. As soon as you're hungry, as soon as you're tired, you just don't blooming work as well. And I think as well that what happens is we treat ourselves a bit like blooming computers, right? Or a piece of machinery we plug in and just expect ourselves to keep going. These bodies and brains of ours actually genuinely need to be looked after. Let me bring it to life for you. So if you look over here on your left, my right, our energy should pulse, right? It should pulse between different states. It should pulse between this energizing and then this slightly resting period. But here's the problem, and I relate to this so much. When I was working in media before, when I was working in advertising, I was over this side. I was spiking my energy and then I was numbing it, right? And the problem was then, when crisis came along, I just didn't have the energy to be able to deal with it properly. to bring that to life for you. You know, I'd start my week full of eagerness and I'd be eating right. And then as I got more and more stressed, I didn't sleep as well. I was drinking coffee. I was drinking alcohol by the end of it just to deal with it. And all of it, I just didn't have that balance and I wasn't looking after myself. So when crisis hit in, that's why I ended up depressed, seriously depressed and ultimately burnt out. So what do we do about it? And again, Simon touched on this slightly earlier, but I really would stress to you guys the importance of understanding what gives you energy and what that energy feels like. We talk about the energy pots, and this comes from the work of Albert Toffler, who talked about stability zones. All of these are things that give you energy, right? And these things that give you energy are both higher or low energy, but what we need to work out is what those things are, and more importantly, how you can make sure that you keep doing them even during times of stress. Because what will tend to happen is when something is making us very busy or causing us stress or causing anxiety, we tend to spend more time with that thing that is causing us that stress. And this is when it's most important to do this good stuff, the good stuff that's putting the energy in. Now, a really easy way to think about this is just to write a list of everything that makes you happy. It's so simple. Things that make you happy give you good energy. But how rarely do we actually think to ourselves, oh yeah, I've got to know what this list is. I know what all of these things are that make us happy. And, you know, for me, for example, one of the things that makes me happy is exercising or spending time with my dog, whatever those things are. Working out what those things are and then making sure that even when we're busy, we put them in. So for example, exercise, I'll always do it first thing in the morning just because I know then it's done and it gives me more energy for the rest of the day. So working out what makes you happy, writing a list of it, then how can you do more of it when you are busy? Because actually it's the thing that energizes us to keep going through the harder times. Onto our emotional energy. So that was our first thing there around kind of physical energy. Onto emotional energy. So what is emotional energy? The thing is that how we feel profoundly impacts how we're performing and how productive we are. But the problem we have is so rarely are we aware of how we're feeling, let alone the impact that it's having on our performance. And you know, if we go back to that thing that I was saying earlier, that as soon as we start feeling unsafe, we go into the stress zone. We just can't perform as well because our brain totally narrows down and is nowhere near as creative or nowhere near as innovative as it could be. So what do you do about it? Let me show you what I mean. If I was to say to you, when you were last performing at your absolute best or your most productive, how do you feel? I bet my bottom dollar that you felt like this, calm, engaged, optimistic. And you know when you feel like that, how your energy levels rise and you're absolutely at your best. But here's the problem. Throughout the day, we go through all of these emotional zones, right? We naturally do. Something will come along and it will trigger us. And it will put us into a place where we're going straight into survival zone. And we go into that zone, as I said, we just can't perform as well. Now, the thing is that naturally, things are going to happen, and I said this at the start of the talk, things are always going to happen that are always going to affect how we're thinking and how we're feeling. But the crucial thing is, because we can't change those things from happening, but what we can change is how we feel about them. What we can change is our perception of them and our reaction to them. And it's about having a set of tools in your pocket to be able to deal with those things. And I'd like to show you some tools now. We call them the really useful 4As. There's a clue there. We think they're pretty useful. And basically what they are is 2 ways of dealing with something that's causing you stress, or 2 ways of dealing with yourself when it comes to something that is causing you stress. So, because the reason being is if you have something in your life that keeps coming up and keeps causing you stress, there is only one person that's got responsibility for that. That's you. You are the person that has the responsibility to change that, either the thing or how you feel about the thing. So, If you two things that you can do to the thing that's causing you stress: avoid or alter. So in my life then, previously, one of the things that used to happen to me is I used to get a journey to work that was really stressful. It was a tube journey, central line at 8 a.m. in the morning, and it would cause me stress not only in that moment, but also the night before, because I'd be thinking about it. So what did I do? In the end, actually, I ended up completely avoiding it. In the end, I ended up walking into work. I'd get up early. Yeah, okay, I was up a little bit earlier. But I knew then I'd have a really enjoyable walk into work rather than feeling stressed from it and angry, and that energy would go on throughout the whole day. Or what I could have done is I could have altered it. I could have just got up a little bit earlier or a little bit later and missed that really hard commute. So that's what I was doing to something that was causing me stress. How do I avoid it, or how do I alter it? So ask yourself those two questions. Now, accept and adapt, and this is what we do to ourselves about something that is causing our stress. And what I want to share with you here is an experience that I had, and one of the things that caused me definitely to have my breakdown towards the end. I'd just been promoted to the head of the team, and I was suffering from something that we call imposter syndrome, right? Do people know that term, imposter syndrome? I shouldn't be where I am. I'm not doing the right thing. I don't deserve to be here. Now, the problem with this is that basically what you're doing is you're starting to fight reality. You don't have that belief in yourself. And actually what I should have done is I should have either accepted the situation or I should have adapted how I felt about it. So to bring to life accepting, what I should have said is actually, whilst I believe in my head, whilst my thinking is telling me, my thoughts are telling me I shouldn't be here, the reality is that I am here, and therefore I deserve it. So maybe, for example, when you're coming up to an exam and you're worried about it, rather than those thoughts which are not reality, by the way, which are simply your own thinking, rather than believing those, it's about getting back into the moment and saying, actually, I believe in myself enough because the evidence I have is that I am here, rather than the thinking that's going on in my head. Alternatively, I could have adapted how I felt about it. And actually what I could have said in those moments is, I know that I feel challenged around it, and maybe that should be the thing that galvanizes me forward to work more and to get more invigorated and more excited about this, to learn more and to train more, to actually be the best at what I'm doing, rather than feeling like this. And more to the point, simply having more confidence in myself. Okay? On to the next one. And this is a biggie, because this is the one around mental energy. And mental energy, I think, is actually one of the greatest problems that we have, because the huge amount, the huge influx of content that is coming at us, and this overstimulation, which is simply exhausting our brains, causing us anxiety, and the thing that, for me, we constantly feel that bit of guilt that we're not doing enough. You know, we get 200 emails a day in some instances. In companies we work in London, 16 to 20 hours of meetings every single week. We have 6 times the amount of content thrown at us now than we did in the 1980s. I mean, that's insane. And the problem is that actually we're not working in the right way. You know, if I think to myself, actually, if the tactical zone is where we need to be, that really logical uni-focus of working, it's so rare I think like that. It's only when I'm on a deadline, for example. Or when do I think in this big picture zone, in a really creative way? When do I give myself the time to do that? And that's the bit that really genuinely makes a difference in companies, or how you're working and when you're studying, when you actually are creative. But the problem is, we end up over here because we end up in a place where we have all notifications coming at us, emails, WhatsApp messages, text messages. We're constantly going between different states, and this dialing up and dialing down, like a pinball going around a pinball machine. We end up in a place where sometimes I feel like my brain is like Google Chrome, and I have so many tabs open, and I'm flicking between all of them. And actually what we need to get really good at is just focusing one thing at a time, doing jobs really well and improving our productivity. How do we do that? There are 4 top tips we give. The first one is to plan ahead. Ideally, either in the morning or even better, the night before. And when you do that, then actually where you get to is a place where you have a really logical focus, and to stick to it steadfastly in order to get your jobs done as expediently as possible. Chunking and grouping, chunk your work down into smaller amounts rather than something that feels huge and that you procrastinate over. And when you do that, also really reward yourself in order to motivate yourself more. Group different tasks together, ones that are creative versus ones that are logical, and actually then being able to get through them much more expediently. Sprinting and breaking, no one can work for 8 hours solidly, but what we can do is we can work in chunks of time, like 90 minutes, which follows the circadian rhythm, and then having a break away from it to come back to it with more focus. And finally, to turn off and be present. You know, the greatest bane of all of our lives are notifications. Notifications which distract us, take us away from the thing that we're focusing on, and then waste all of our time and our energy. So turn off your notifications, be really focused in the moment, and then have a break afterwards to deal with those distractions. And the final energy source, social. And this is purpose. I think Simon talked about this so beautifully earlier. The thing is when we do the thing that we're meant to be doing, it is the thing that truly energizes us and gets us through the most challenging situations. And what I really need to stress here, and I think Simon brought it to life perfectly, is that it doesn't have to be something altruistic. What's really important is that you do the thing in your life that you love, that brings you passion and energy and joy, because it is the one thing that's going to keep you going when times are tough. And it's blooming hard to work out what that thing is, right? Especially because I think that what happens is we end up in a place where we just focus on the stuff that we need to do and getting through that as quickly as possible, rather than maybe what we want to be known for. And then we don't understand when things don't feel good to us, we don't understand what's affecting us. And it's because we're in the wrong place. It's not getting the best of us, it's bringing out worst of us. So what do? Well, again, Simon said very beautifully the kind of things to focus on. But we talked so much at Push about the importance of values. And values are simply, like we talked about earlier, the stuff that you love, the stuff that's really important to you and how you can do more of it. So, for example, I did this audit recently and I looked at what was really important to me. And I've got 3 core values, right? They are love, they are ambition, and they are humour. And now that I know those, I can see how I can bring them about in everything that I do. So first of all, you know, allocating time and energy to areas in my life that you see most important. You know, I know, for example, then when it comes to love, that within our work, that I want to bring charity into that. Or within my life, you know, when it comes to love, it's been really important to me to spend time with my family and with my friends in order to bring the best out in me. And then in terms of do what you do best and enjoy most at work, I know that managing the company isn't brilliant for me, but actually it comes down to love and ambition, that going out and talking to people and sharing the work that we do with our clients is the stuff that is really going to energize me. The important thing about all of this, to sum it all up, I come back to this place that what we really, really need to do in order to get to the best of us, or more to the point, to get to each of our superpowers, is realizing how we each work as individuals, understanding all of our energy sources, understanding what gets the very best and the most brilliant part of us, and then once we've done that, communicating that to other people so that they can get clear on us as well. This is not about saying no to people, it's about saying these are my boundaries, this is how I work, and if you want the best of me, this is how I recommend you do that. Because we are the most important people, and I know that sounds like we're being really selfish, but it's truly not. If you want to have the greatest impact not only on yourself but on others and the world, that's how it's going to happen. I think all of us deserve to be as good at being us as Beyoncé is at being Beyoncé, and that, for me, is how you build resilience in a 21st century world. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think you've used your time. One thing I learned from you,
yes.
You need emotional appreciation.
Oh, that's what I love. Thank you. That's exactly what I need. Hugs all round.
Thank you, Kathy. Are there any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, I will have quite a few, but I think we are running into the next program, and since it's a panel discussion, I think we need time anyway, so thank you very much.
No worries, thank you.
So please, the panelists, would they please come up and have a seat here? You, on the first row. I'll introduce you when you're up here, so you won't have to endure my pronouncing the names twice. I would like to sit here, and the student here, so maybe you're here in the middle, suits you. And maybe sit.
Hector Chiftia.
So, Mr. Chiftia, Mr. Vila. Oh, he's waiting for extra invitation. Mr. Ruda. Yes, welcome, Mr. Seer, Mr. Rula, and Inea, then. There, okay. Take place there, right? You sit here. So now while everybody's up here and sitting, I'll introduce you the panelists here. So let's start with the Mayor of Elbasan. You've met him earlier, Mr. Gledian Buatja. Then next to him is Mr. Hector Chiftia, head of the City Council and on the second capacity as parent. And then we have Albania Youth, head of the Information Department of the University of Elbasan, and Mr. Ermal Rula, a businessman from the company of Europa Spicker. And next to me, a student, Nea Sari, student from the Faculty of Law, University of Tirana. So, and our topic is the youth of today and the challenges they are facing. Now, of course, I could introduce the panel with what I think the youth, and especially the youth in Albania, is facing, but I think we have a competent young man here who knows much better than I what the challenges are. And my suggestion is, tell us one or two things that come to your mind, which are for you and your colleagues a challenge, and then we go through the esteemed panel and listen what they have to say. And one thing is, I don't want to make it easy for you. I don't let you out easy, but I won't make it hard either. So we don't really hold it against you if you don't have the perfect answer, but we want an honest answer. We want some added value when we leave the panel, and so let's be very honest and frank. Let's start, what you say are the problems of daily life and of your challenge. Oh yeah, we need microphones.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So let's say that one of the most common problems that happens in Albania is the practice in almost all of Albanian schools. I mean, we all learn theory day by day. That's okay. That's totally okay. But we should put knowledge even in practice. So my opinion is that we should give the opportunity to the student to make a little bit more practice, because after we finish university, we get a degree, like a paper, but then after we get a degree, we don't know what we are really going to do, and if we are really able to do our job correctly. So I think that the most important one is the practice in Albanian school, not only the theory.
So you are studying law. When you have finished, have you during your university time seen a court from inside?
Yeah. I'll take myself as an example.
Yeah.
Doing my bachelor's, because I'm a master degree now, I never went in the court. I never saw a judge working, a prosecutor or a lawyer. So that's what I'm talking about.
And you have not time spent, let's say, at a law office, how they prepare a case, how they argue a case?
I could do that, but on my own.
On your own, okay.
Yes.
Now we're talking about the institutional...
Yes, what the institution offers to us.
Right. Okay, would you be so kind to pass on the microphone? We are very
We are-
eager to hear.
We are two lawyers near to each other, so it's not good for the panel.
You're two lawyers?
We are two lawyers near to each other, so it's not good.
Ah, yeah, okay. Well, but I'll ask you not as a lawyer, but as a politician, and of course, yeah, no. The question is, what is on the political side? I mean, are you working, do you see that problem? Is it new for you? Or if it's not new for you, what answers are you preparing?
For the political?
From the politician. And could you please speak loudly? Into
Of
the
course,
phone?
of course. No, I start with the activation in the political a lot of time ago when I was a student. So I have a lot of time now that I'm the politician. So as a politician or as an administrator of Elbasan, as you said before, we have some problem here with the youth, of course, because we need a lot of practice. The student needs a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And either in our institution, we took a lot of students to make the practice in the municipality, or either in the institution where I worked before. And it's very important for a student, or either for a person who wants to work in their profile, just to have some practice, not start directly. Because, as we said, when I finished the university at the time, a professor said to me, look, the school didn't learn how to work. You have to learn in the work that you have to work
Yeah,
to
but
make that.
excuse me if I interrupt you, but this is exactly what he said, and you are repeating
Yeah.
what he said.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what we want interested are answers to solve the problem.
To resolve the problem for the student that we have here in Elbasan, or either for the young people who study abroad in Tirana or in other university. Of course, that we have a program for making practice in municipality or in other institution of Elbasan. Now we have a lot of young people who are making practice in all the institution of Elbasan, in municipality, in either I think in the court they make some practice now, in all the institutions that we have in Elbasan. We have 1 year of paid practice. We have some for the students who are in the last year, I think. It's true or not? Yeah. Only for the students who are in the last year. They are coming to make the practice in the institution.
Okay. See what your colleague says. He has a microphone. So you're also from the political side, but also administration, and of course as a parent. How old are your children?
I'm head of IT department, so...
How old? You are also father.
No, not yet.
Oh. I have the wrong briefing then. Okay, so you talk as a...
But thank you, it's a nice thing, so...
Okay.
I'm not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, before I try to get involved in the discussion with what the student said, I would like to spend some moment just to... First, I'm very pleased to be part of this event, and I want to thank the organizers, the Elite Travel Academy, and the municipality of Elbasan, the mayor here. This is a wonderful event which has a very profound mission. At first I was a little bit skeptical to let's say, to get in contact with the organizers and with the people who were responsible for this conference. But after a few moments, I understood that this is one very important event because of a very simple reason. And the simple reason was, the motivation was to give hope to the youth of Albania, to the youth of the Elbasan, which unfortunately now sees the hope elsewhere but here. And for that reason, I think that this conference will succeed with the help of all the factors here, with HL Academy, with local institutions and so on. Now, I agree with what the student said, that we have a problem with a kind of combination of a theory and the praxis. But this is partially part of the education system. So the study programs are not built exactly with a considerable part of the praxis in mind, which means that first we have to look at these study programs to see what we can do within the university, how to enlarge this practical part and how to motivate the students to get involved in the project within university and then out of it. So, for example, in cooperation with the institution here around, and as I've heard, so they have done pretty good jobs so with students who have graduated and who have been so in training or practices around here. But I can talk for the IT branch, since the focus of the conference, as I see, is also coding, multimedia, digital marketing, and so on. I've realized this problem so some time ago, and we are trying to, let's say, to build kind of facilities in order for students to let's say, to spend considerable time so with training or practices, so to touch the things with their hands and to be somehow prepared after their graduation. So when they go to a company, at least so they will have some part of practice. They will not be fully professional, but they will not face a company so with, let's say, empty space in this practical part. So, and I believe that this is something that can be done. So, with support of different factors, so with cooperation with different companies, with the business, we can really so build, let's say, successful framework for these students, for the graduates, in order to give them hope that it's really worth it to stay here and to work for this place, for Elbasan and for all the Albanians.
Well, what would be your idea, like the first 1 or 2 steps which are needed? Is it a matter of understanding, a matter of funding, of money, a matter of teaching capabilities?
I think it's a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
So the teachers or the professors, so I think most of the professors have experience. So some of them have been studying abroad or have been graduated abroad, but also here. So the funding, it's another issue that will be solved also. And well, it's the most important thing is the willing to do that.
Okay.
If all the actors are willing to do that, so I think that we can find a very good balance between them and to make sure that the students really can spend time for training or practice within the institution before they go out in the companies and so on.
Do you think that among the faculty the awareness is there and the will?
Well, most of them, yes. So the majority.
Okay, that's a good message.
I think it is possible. So I'm always hopeful that if it isn't, so it must change, because the time will require it. So we cannot be left behind. We should think ahead and move forward.
Okay. Good. Thank you so far. Please pass on. We have. I mixed you up, to be honest, with the politician, and you're from the city council, right?
Just to introduce myself, I am from the city council. I am the chairman of the city council, but at the same time I am a university teacher. And one of the subjects that I teach in the university is communication and media. The question raised by the student is a real challenge, But in my view, it's a challenge that we are, as a society, are trying to overcome. And some regulations are being made from the government and from the pressure of interest groups. We are trying to build, not as a municipality council, but on a political level, we're trying to build a system of apprenticeship and a working system of collaboration between universities and industries. Of course, there will be a generation like the generation of the guy who might be lacking the trend because the situation, how the situation is now, but in very soon, it's a matter of years, that we are going to have, we will have an established system of apprenticeships and collaboration and working collaboration between industries and universities. The first examples have been made in the field of nursery, some good examples in the training of doctors. My concern as a municipality council and take the leave to talk on my members of municipality council is to state the fact that all the municipality council should feel, everybody of us should feel responsible for energizing these youth, these young people. Because I feel a lot of energy here, and I feel as a teacher and a municipality councillor, I feel that youngsters have a lot of energy. They have knowledge, they have power, they have ideas, and fortunately, very lucky for me, they live in Elbasan, and just need to push us, to push politicians for making changes. Of course, the fact that we had such presentation, great presentations for you, was very, very inspiring. And I saw your presentations as a kind of light in the end of the tunnel. So there is hope because we have presentations like this and we have such an interest. So one of the challenges is to be overcome. The other challenge to be overcome is that in Albania we have a high level of digital illiteracy, and we need to work on that and to push reforms on that, to raise our voice as a council and to embrace the voice of the young people who are interested in that field. And we also, as a council, we are more in touch with people, and we see that they want to advance, they want to learn, they want to take degrees, but they want to take real degrees, working degrees, functional degrees, and degrees related to mostly to a kind of digital environment, what you call fourth industrial revolution or the fourth revolution. I mean, the fourth revolution is coming, and teenagers and youngsters here are ready for that. We just, as policy makers, and I'm addressing here the mayor, we need to create or to push to create the most favorable climate for these things to move forward. Thank you.
Do you think it's inter-political, apart from different parties, something that all parties are involved in or should be involved in, education? Do you see?
There is a vision in both, in politics, there is a vision and they are working on it. But as everywhere in developing countries, politics is a bit slower, more careful than the movements which come from business and the movements which come from the youngsters who are interested in, for example, startups and digital things. Oh, sorry, I'm heard now.
Okay, thank you much. So far now we hear the business side from a businessman.
Yeah.
So what's your comment to the students' remark?
Yeah. Also, again, from my side, I want to thank that give this opportunity. Finally, I will say to put all the persons that are involved, let's say, because let's say the student that want the job and the business that want also the employer. So it's a good possibility to put together, because what I'm saying in the last period is missing this connection between these two parties. So my point of view, need to be to find a middle connection between these two parties that I hope in one moment academy like Elite Academy or similar like that will start, let's say, can be okay, I don't want to say can be a private company, or can come also from politicians, from government, so to be organized. One of the main points for us is that really we see that there are a lot of graduating people around Albania, also in Elbasan, but sometimes are not the right skills needed for the job or what is requesting the company, so the market. So this communication needs to be started from what is the request for employee, and passing, let's say, from this information from the beginning to be, let's say, a connection between the request and what can be offered. Because after that, if going to finish some study that we find on the market thousands of who finish the jurisprudence, or thousands of who finish economics, and when we need some type of employees that are not connected to only these two main. So from my point of view, needed the first creation of this, and to be asked to the business, what is the business asking, not only for today, but on the next future. So in a way to create the right curricula for the person that are studying on the university. In this way, we'll create really an opportunity to this young generation, a real opportunity for employment, a fast employment as soon as you will finish the study. As I'm happening, because this is it's not only speaking only for high graduated or university persons. So sometimes what is missing here, and from my what I have seen, let's say country like Germany or Italy, has been grown up not only from from university people, but who doing the real job coming from the high school. So the medium employer that here is missing, the real professional people are missing, is not coming anymore from mostly the last 30 years. It's not growing up anymore, the real professional people that has been coming time before. Like I'm saying, the real professional and telling for the mechanical, medium, electrical specialists. So these people are missing also, without speak for the new, for the new type of employer, like is mechatronic or electronic gadget, but the medium one, I'm not speaking all the time engineer, because will not be the engineer that will do some of the job. We needed also this middle qualification, let's say like that. And mostly what I'm seeing on the new generation, everyone is focused to finish high school. Probably I'm not expressing the university, but high school, let's say like this. And as forget, let's say, the part of professional schools. This is coming out, yes, it's coming out sometime, let's say that the professional, let's leave it as a second choice, so the people that not has the opportunity to go to university finish to do this type of choose. But the choice, yes. I mean, as my point of view, we need to have also this this empty space has been created for the last 30 years. And this, I want to take also a phrase that used the Prime Minister, that we have really a lot of job, but we are missing professionals. So and this is true. So it's not, we are suffering in reality this subject, so we're suffering every day. So because another bad thing that is happened, that also some good professional trying to escape in some way, so from Albania. So, but again, this doesn't mean that if escape 3 or 4 will be empty. So if we generate some good employee also for Germany, this is not a bad thing. So that means we have also some good quality. We can create professional. But again, if let's say the number of these professionals are a little bit more bigger, someone will stay also here in Albania, creating him opportunity.
Maybe we have the direct response here?
No, I just wanted to further the discussion of the Mr. here, and I'd like to emphasize not the dark side of the situation, because before you coming here, everybody knows the dark side of the situation. I mean, the dark side of the situation is the high level of illiteracy and the high level of digital literacy. And the dark side of the situation is related to the lack of proper collaboration between universities and industry. But there is, as I said, there is light in the end of the tunnel, and we see that politicians like our mayor are very confident in and believe in changing things toward future age of the fourth revolution to come. He believes in that, and the council believes in that. And also I do believe in a kind of liberal economy. So I believe that the initiatives like that of ED Travel or your participation and the initiatives like ED Academy will be, why not, the flowers for such a change. And believe me, the youngsters, high school students and university students are ready to embrace that change. They just need the proper milestones to identify themselves with. And activities like yours are providing the points of reference to refer, points of reference for the youngsters who are a lot and who are very willing to do this. And I can invite any of the others to write proposals and discuss the proposals with members of municipality council, and every member of your municipality council is very interested, not officially, but interested to promote any initiative of the youngsters as far as startup businesses and as far as technology related things. Okay, thank you.
I want to continue by addressing the problem of adapting the curricula of universities with what the market requires, which means that we have a kind of gap between, let's say, the subjects that the students learn at university and what the market requires. We have been trying to narrow that gap, which means that we have been trying to put on the curricula the subjects which are closer to the market requirement. For example, programming or networking or databases and things like that. This is really a problem, and which need to be addressed in, let's say, multi-dimensional level. Right from the university or from the political, let's say, agenda because universities alone cannot do so much if they do not have the support of the government or the proper politics with support, with funding or with projects and things like that. And I don't agree that Albania has been so, let's say, behind in respect to digitalization, or even one of the German colleagues here told me that we are pretty high, so on the list. But the youth needs some kind of orientation on how to get involved in this development and let's say to move forward with the same speed as the country around here, or with the same goals, I'll say, because these youngs need some kind of orientation in order to, let's say, to what will they do after the graduation. So the study is something, but after the graduation time is something else. And for that reason, so the universities alone cannot do it. So, I mean, to really keep these youngs of the graduates here, but a kind of cooperation between different factors, so it's necessary. And unfortunately, in the recent years, so if you look at the budget for the higher education, so we have really seen some kind of gaps, which, according to promises, so we will see it so increasing in the future.
Okay, we are running out of time. Maybe a last statement from Mayor.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate Mr. Rula concern, because for the technical, I just want to share, because when we are speaking in the when we took the initiative with Elvis, I talked to him about the cases that we missed in Elbasan here, and it was really, I was really disappointed about missing this kind of investment, because it was an Asian company who wants to come in Albania to invest a lot of, to make a big investment, and to produce some electronical parts for the cars, for machinery, for the industry of automobiles. And at the time I worked in the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy in Tirana, and I had a lot of contact with this company, and I really want that company wants to come in Elbasan to invest in the metallurgy industrial area that we had here. They come in Elbasan, they see the area here, they love that kind of, because everything was ready for the investment. And after that they come to the technical school that we have here in Elbasan. They see curricula, they see everything. And the only thing that we missed, the investment, and they go in fear, who is sitting near here. We miss it because we don't have a kind of mechatronic here, a curricula of mechatronic here in our school. And when we talked with Elvis at the time, I said, look, why we don't have this kind? Why? It's very, the curricula, you can write the curricula here in Elbasan, we can open the course, we can train in 2 years all the people who wants, the technical people who can work there in this kind of industry. And at the time speaking about thousands of employees that we want to employ here. And we really need here, and now when I'm a mayor of Elbasan, either before I was a prefect of Elbasan, we make a very good group of technical school, the director of technical school, the director of work office here, the director of professional training center that we have here in Elbasan, the municipality, and some of the most important institutions here in Albania, just to focus or to orient the young people to the market that we want to develop in Elbasan. Here we have a lot of potential, of course. As maybe you know, at Elbasan we have a lot of potential. We have our people work a lot. They're hard workers. They want to work. They want they want the good for all the society and for everyone here. And now we think, I think that we are ready just to be, all the institutions here are ready that for the investment that we can meet here in Elbasan and for the industry. Now we are trying to make some good investment in the combinati druid, I don't know how to. It's another industrial area that we have here, and it was the first tax-free zone for the industry that we have in Albania at the moment. We are waiting a lot of investment there for the company that comes in Elbasan to invest. We have to be ready for that. The state are making ready. We are making ready all the curricula for the business that wants to come there to invest, and I think that our future will be very bright. I think
Okay.
It'll be so.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I'd like to give the last word to the student.
Thanks.
If what you've heard, and of course you live here, on a scale from 1 to 10, give a grading, like, from 1 to 10, what will be the situation in 3 years? Will it have improved significantly? Give me an open-hearted opinion from 1 to 10. Where will it be?
As a law student, I like politics, so I follow the mayor, what he does in politics, what he does for our city. And I know that his main focus has always been the youth. So I think he will make whatever is possible to improve the state of Albanian universities. And from a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 9.
Oh,
I do believe, yes.
That is very optimistic. Wow. Quite frankly speaking, I didn't expect that, but yeah, man, very good. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Very, very short, please.
Very short. I strongly believe that cooperation with the business community of the university and with other actors is vital for city of Elbasan. And in my personal perspective, Elvis has been my student so many years ago, and I can say now that he is the best example of the youth who wants to work and live here in Albania. So a successful company and motivation for the youth of Elbasan. So thank you.
Well, I right to that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. My personal wish for the next panel we have, and don't take it personally, is that we have 1 or 2 ladies up here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, thank you. So we need a minute for change and have the next and last for today lecture keynote. Or you want to give me the microphone? I take the microphone. Yep, thank you. So, Carmen.
You're looking for me, I'm here.
Right, everybody's settled and in. Okay, you are the last one for today before we go into the evening. What we have now prepared for you is a lecture about startups. Of course, one thing is to join a company, but the other alternative is, Simon has the alternative of traveling around the world. But when you are back from traveling around the world, you might want to start your own company. And we have an expert here who consults young startups in Germany and otherwise. And I know she has a very ambitious presentation. I think you can, if you not understand anything by reading, you have the chance of getting it. If you talk to the team of Elite Travel, and you can study it in detail then. So please, Carmen Schrott, founder and CEO of Activigo, which is our own company, will guide you into startup phases and motivate you to think about starting your own company. Carmen, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerd. And well, I wish you to come along with me on a short tour into the world of starting up a company. Maybe you have been thinking about it. Maybe you have been thinking, how do I approach the fortunate young people and also the elder one in the country I come from, which is Germany. They get a lot of help in it. They help out by the municipalities, by the provinces, the state, the job agencies. So they can get coaching on the way of the business side, because many have a good idea, but they don't know how to make that idea come true because of a lack of business administration background, which of course it's also needed on your way to make a dream come true and make it marketable. So let me take you along on the road to how to get there. There is much more to say than is fitting in half an hour. You can get, as you said, the presentation, and if you have any questions, once you go through it, you can contact me by email, and I will try to help you along. I will bring you a short glimpse on what it means to be finding an idea, opportunity scouting, what it takes to be an entrepreneur at all, what about projecting and the phases of founding a company. Maybe you've heard about vision, mission, and value proposition, so we will tackle that. And I bring you a sketch of how to design a business model. We'll have a quick view about what it means to be forecasting your sales, what it means about asset, people, organization to make the dream come true, which tools you need to find your business case, and where you might be finding funding for the financial needs that you will have. So, how do you go about to embrace your world of opportunities? I suggest you should look out for any transnational trends. I mean, you are IT persons. You can have access to communities. You can go into the internet and see what is on, not here, but maybe somewhere else, and think of what could that mean for your possibilities here in Albania. You should see which problems are here that are demanding solution and think how you could find solutions to these problems. See which momentum could be there from tech innovations, like blockchain as a word, but there are many other possibilities around. From the cloud industry, which gives easy access, easy development frameworks, and see what can make this easy for you to find something. Of course, you could also view what possibilities are there to help other companies in the way of how to leverage their cost efficiencies, and think about how to help businesses to optimize. Of course, the very valuable way is to see which funding initiatives are around. You should see what the European Union is bringing along. They give you grants. They have funding programs. You see to understand which areas are being funded to see if there is a possibility for you. Also, it is very clever to see what is working out of your country. This is called clone importation. So, see if a business model has been successful out and try to import it here. A good idea to do this is also to look at what works with franchising. You all know McDonald's. That's easy. But there are a lot of other possibilities to bring a business model that has proven already the business value here to your country. And of course you can see the challenge of upcoming ecosystems. To see something that's spreading up, how can you fit into it and take a little bit of that opportunity? To give you some example, incoming tourism is on the rise. I've seen it in the stats, you can see it too. You know the trend of being nature-bound and healthy, sporty lifestyle, which is around at least in the region where I come from. What does that mean? This gives you possibility for hospitality infrastructure, but it must be green and maybe offer some sport opportunities for activity tour operating. You can think about setting up an online education system, maybe to just help some of the tour guides improvise. Well, get it done means that you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. That not everybody is being born as a founder. You have to prepare for it. But preparation does not all come from the academic background, as we have just discussed before. And you can start to do a self-assessment as the first step. Here is a little checklist to see if you are an entrepreneurial guide, and it needs the resilience that we have just heard about. It needs a sound physical fitness. It needs the readiness to work 50 hours a week, to maybe live on a small income at the very beginning. But for the most important thing, it needs that you are a problem solver, that you don't wait for somebody offering you, but you go out and search for what is possible. And that you are setting your own goals, and that you are following through to reach them, and not wait for anybody to take your hand. Of course, it is not bad to have a solid financial background, at least to get started in the initial phase. So go ahead and get some private savings, if possible, or talk to friends and families. And of course, you must ask yourself, how much is on the risk if you are already employed? Are you the one to make sure you can live without a regular income? And what about your partner and family? They support some startup idea. Founding, of course, is a long-term project. And typically, from research, we have considered that there are 4 major stages. So one is the ideation and creation phase. Typically, it is something taking about 6 months to 1 year. So, from a very first business idea creation, you will have to go into a feasibility check to see what is needed. You will have to think about going slow and risk-averse to build up, which is called the minimum viable product. And this is not only true in the IT world and building apps, this is also true in the real world. You will have to try to validate it and design a business model. Later we will go into that. Come up with the business case, which is all the financial parts. And you will have to make sure that while you are in this phase, you have the idea of bootstrap funding, which is live on small pocket money and get some sponsorship of friends and families. Once you are done with this, you can access the startup and validation phase, which is the formal funding of your company. You will have to have first fundraising. Maybe you think of integrating co-founders. And you will have then to do the job of establishing a startup operation. And probably first go on a lean scope. Your market entry in pilot market needs to be organized and realized. And you will have to make sure to get access to your sales channels, at least the most important ones. And it is a truth from research also that only about 25% of startup founders overcome this phase. So don't be frustrated if you are not making it in the first time. Many try learning from their failures and go a second time and succeed then. So this startup and validation phase typically is a phase from 1 to 3 years. If you make that, you will go into the so-called establish and growth phase, which is usually from the 3rd to the 6th years after you have started the ideation. Here you will expand your staff, get into a stable organization, hopefully and obviously see more demand growth. Also formalize your processes and your methods of work and see stable cash flows. And then, of course, try to strategically plan on your next phase, which is scale up and expand. And for this next phase, which is usually after your third to sixth year, you will need typically a second funding round, because that, of course, demands more investment. You maybe have heard it, because some maybe from the economy department, mission, vision, and value proposition. So the very core of your idea is to give it framing of what will your company you are founding stand for. Which value does it give to society? And what would society miss if your company weren't there? The vision gives the whole scorecard and roadmap for the next 5 years. How will you make that mission come true in a real world? Which strategic goals do you follow in this period of time? And you will have to come up with the value proposition where you formulate, hey, which problem do I help to solve at all? Which solution will I provide? And what is my product and service solution looking at to help to a certain customer base? So ideating your product and services, usually you will try to define what is your core product, or maybe even a portfolio already. So you will ask yourself and hopefully find the question, which problems do our offerings actually help to solve? And this is the story you need to tell, because once you will talk about marketing, and in the marketing you have to make all the communication that founds this. Today's customers will not just buy a product, but they want to believe in the values that are behind it. So you make clear which solutions do you actually provide to such problems that you are trying to solve. And then in the next growth path, you will ask yourself, okay, among this core product, which ancillary services can I build that give more problem solution, but of course give also more payback and increase your sales opportunities? And in a further stage, you will ask yourself about product and service diversification. So given that you know I have built up a customer base, the question is, how can I make more money on the same customer base? And on the other hand, you will ask yourself, how can I increase my customer base by maybe diversifying my product from the base that I have already built infrastructure for? So here an example is done by customer relationship provider who will start up maybe with a core product which is just inbound call service. But then in a second step will add email and letter service to finally have the plan that in the 5-year step come up with a self-service platform as a service with all the IT infrastructure that is needed for it, to give you an example. Of course, it is relevant to be clear about your target customer segments. So, will you have business customers, institutional customers, or will you have end customers, individual ones? Or maybe you have both ways. You need to determine which characteristics define these customer segments to be able to tackle them, to find them, and to later communicate your service proposition to them. So you need to think about which purchase goals do they have? What is their behavior? Something says that it is shutting down. This is a problem. And you will have to see which service experience do they have already? How can I optimize, and which price sensibility? You will have to see which segment priority you determine, how big is the size of the segment, and which sales potential does it bring. Here, for example, it would be the segment of a hospitality provider tourism information car rental companies and outdoor activity providers who would be the customer base for this customer relationship management provider. Here we go. I hope somebody is caring for this message. So next up is actually to see what market are you heading into and what is the market structure. You will have to define which geographical market are you tackling and what forces actually drive your industry. The presentation is gone. I will try to do without. So in the market analysis base, you will see about which demand. Here it is. I suggest this is gone. So I go a bit beside. Thanks, Gerd, for giving me the hint. So you will find on the demand side here, who is actually already there as a customer base and what is the size of this serviceable market. While on the supply side, you will ask yourself, who is already a participant here, is actually my competition, and what does the competition do in the moment. You will have to see which sales do they already accomplish, so what is actually the market, and how does the market grow, and which economic indicators do influence the market growth. Also, you will have to consider what in this market industry are actually opportunities and what are threats. So which is coming up that gives you a chance, and what is there that you have to be sure that you are, let's say, risk averse against. And of course, you will have to see about your market volume and your market growth, because these are numbers that later on you will need for your business case. Next step on your road is competitive analysis. Here, it is very helpful to build up a spreadsheet and have some criteria, which usually are: what is the location and the market region of the competitors that you find? What is their legal structure? What is their actual product portfolio? Which ancillary service do they already offer? So that you see if you have a possibility to add. What is the actual price position? Because of course you need to know price comparison to know where to start on your own. You have to see which sales channels and sales tactics your competition is already using, and tackle their marketing and customer relationship management, because they're out in the market already, so you can research it. And of course, make sure you understand which quality and service levels do they already support. And the very important thing is you have to make a scenario. What does the competition do and react once that you are entering this market as a new incumbent? So the economy student among you might have heard already about SWOT analysis. This is a tool that helps you to understand where you have on the own corporate focus strengths and weaknesses, and where your environment, that means the competitors that are already there, together and the market bring opportunities but threats. So on the strength side, you might, for example, come up that you want to have a high automation degree, that you want to be communicating with state-of-the-art methods, which of course then you will have to implement, that you enter the market with very competitive pricing. And as you are a startup, of course, on the weaknesses side, you will have to face that, first of all, you don't have any brand reputation yet. And you might have a very low marketing budget, so you must be intelligent about it. You might have initial unstable processes, and maybe you are very low on your research and development financing. While you might find opportunities, for example, in upcoming new technologies, for example, for remote work, which gives you the possibility to find employees that you don't have to have office infrastructure. Or it might be an opportunity to see about EU training funds, something that hasn't been discussed here at all in the panel before. But there are a lot of possibilities that you could use here. And threats, of course, could be that you have somebody from the EU coming and bringing the business skills here and setting up the company, and you may maybe be employed by this, but you have missed out the chance to starting out on the same topic. So it is not just to wait, but to also be quick. So all in all from this, you will have to derive your so-called SWOT strategy. So, which strengths and opportunities actually give you a competitive advantage that you could use once that you enter the market? And which weaknesses are absolutely clue to overcome so that you can have promising opportunities once you are entering? Based on competitive and market analysis, you will have to come up with your own competitive strategy. So here, actually there are two main ways to go about it. One is you decide to enter the market to be a cost-focused or cost leader. That means you want to compete on price. The other alternative in general is you want to have a more challenging customer segment-oriented product. So you compete on quality and product differentiation. This is all in a nutshell the two paths of decision making that you will have to take. But once you have taken it, you have to go all the way. And you have to pull through on your brand positioning, on your product and services, the pricing and the promotion in place. It has to be completely aligned to your strategic focus. Here in the example, I have taken the focus of being on the differentiation path, going for quality, argumenting with innovation, which needs high-tech base and state-of-the-art processes, which are reliable, communicable to your customer base. And on the product and services side, that means differentiation for niches. And if you want to do this, you need, of course, top-notch product management, research and development, and absolutely orientation on customer experience. For the price, you have decided not to go on the price competition to enter the market. So here, you could decide to achieve only a pricing against your competitors in the second quintile. So not at the highest end, not at the lowest level, but somewhere in the middle. And of course, you need to make sure that you have an ongoing competitive price monitoring to know what the market is doing. And on the promotion and place side, you could decide to go to online, to webinars, and to sales representatives. And of course, you will have to have your marketing plan, your partners, along with this differentiation strategy. Sales forecast would be the next to do. You have your customer segments, you have your market, and now the question is, how big is actually the market in the sum of all the competitors who are already doing sales? This is representative here. How big is each customer segment? Because you will have to forecast each segment separately, which is representative by these slides. And you will have to see what is the market growth for your achievable share. Here is representative by your research on the market growth in each of your customer segments. This is the fundamental base added by your forecast assumption in a best case, a probable case, and a worst case scenario to come up with your sales forecast, which should be a 3 to 4 years in advance forecast framework for each of your segments. This is a base that you will have to have for your financial planning. Of course, next step will be what is necessary, so what and who is required to make it all possible. So, what do I need to go to market? I was too fast, I'm sorry. What do I need to go to market? and which costs do these assets and people actually imply, and when will these costs come up. So we'll have to do an investment and personnel planning to see which investment goods you need. Some of them are listed up as an example here, and which are typical for the industry you're going into. Which infrastructure means does your operation actually require? So you need to have some base knowledge, of course, of this, or get advice on it. Which IT applications are necessary to go to market at all? And you could have to decide which assets maybe you don't need to buy, but maybe can be rented or used like a software as a service, which is out in the market already. And of course, you will have to plan the critical management key staff roles that you will have to have in place once that you start to operate. So all of this will be brought into your operational cost base. One very basic element of your financial planning. And in it, of course, you will have to frame your sales plan and your marketing plan and to budget that as an important cost position. So organization and team is also, of course, very relevant. And you will have to predefine your organizational structure. Here you should, of course, start with a flat hierarchy. You should think about organizing in which functional teams. And you should already define the relevant head roles and also consider co-funding to back you up. Maybe you cannot do it all alone. So then you have to do your planning against target costs, because of course your budget in the beginning will be limited. Your heads of which you will be employing or getting co-founders, it's important that they have an actual to-do attitude. That means not coming bossy, but be sure that they know to do the things and do it at the very beginning before you can bring up more employees. And you will have to think about how you can initialize by freelancing and bringing in part-time employees for not to raise your personnel cost too much. So, to get it all together means to elaborate your business plan. This is what you will need to be able to be getting access to some funding. So you need to, of course, bring it all together on paper. The typical content of the business plan that any bank, venture capitalist will be expected from you will have the company synopsis, the market overview we have just seen, your description of your product and services, what you will be making money with and how you operate. See what is the result of your competitive analysis. See what is your customer segment and definition. See how you are go about in your marketing to acquire and actually also hold the customers once you have acquired them. Then you need to describe already what steps you already do with success to get somebody who is going to give you some money support. See that you have already gone some steps. You will have to give an introduction to the management team that you have, and you will have to make sure that you have all the financials and your balance sheet already prepared. So here come the costs, here come the sales plan that you have already brought up, all your capital investment, how much operating costs you have forecasted for the 4 years to come. You will have to calculate what will be the profit side out of it and which cash flow comes. So this is, of course, a vast amount of work to do. And you can count on it that in my consultings that I do in coaching for people who want to do a startup, which is usually a small business startup, all this phase typically is a 3 months full time of work to get it all together. But if you want to go real, if you really want to found, and if you think you want to get financial support, this is the absolute must you have to come up with. So often this is the most critical thing, why all of the before said has to be made in this very appropriate professional manner. If you need to find capital funding and it goes on a debt finance, you will have to prove that you have a business model that actually is worthwhile investing. This doesn't matter if you go in the private investment sector. At the beginning, maybe you will try to get money for the first steps, for the ideation phase, and you will have the help of friends and family who just believe in you and take the risk that maybe the money is gone. This will not be true when you go on and try to get venture capital investors, because the venture capital investors, they will come only once you are already in the scale and expand phase. They don't want just the story. They want to see the proof that the story also gets numbers. And then they are easily brought in. But you will have to tell them the story as designed before. Also, there is the wealth and the possibility of public funding. And this is there also for you, here in Albania. So check out, European Union is already offering you, as an aspirant, to be a member of European Union, because you already qualify if your business model is valuable. So they have an early stage fund, which is called ENIF, and they have a challenge fund, especially in the area of IT, in the main part. It's finance funding and it's IT funding. So here are some of the programs that should check to see what possibilities are there. And maybe this is an area I don't have a clue about, but you can research it. Maybe there are national and regional programs here. I see a head shake. Well, then give inspiration that something like this might be created. So, of course, there is the normally known thing, that is debt finance from bank institute. But be sure, this is the hardest way to get money, because all of the banks are risk controlled and they have their hands in chains. So here you have not only to tell your story in an absolutely professional manner, you have to have already proven story to be marketable. So here we only talk about this in the phase of scale and expand. But the good thing is that you have the possibility to get crowdfunding. So challenge this and see what you can make out of it. So here I brought to you some inspiring benchmarks from those who did it. This is a German startup portal that gives you a summary of many that have been getting there with actually public funds. You can see this from the travel and mobility tech unicorn lists, so the ones that have really made it. That is a worldwide actually research focus. And of course, there are some examples from those who failed. But this is a very good lecture to learn from them. And there is a lot of research out there why startups fail. And I advise you not to ignore it, because you will not make these failures once you get there. So in that moment, I can tell you that it's question time, if we have any time for it. And if the time is not here, I invite you to use the opportunity later to ask me anything that you might want to know, and you can access me by email if you want. I will try my best to give you an answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. That sounds easy, so we make it short time. I was missing the phase 4 in the startup life. phase 5 rather. We have 4 ones that were presented, and of course phase 5 is the one that you are most interested in, that once everything works out, you sell it and you get stinking rich. So she didn't mention that, but of course that's what all startups are aiming at. Thank you very much. Well, this concludes today, and we'll have a short wrap-up in a second, and Elvis joins me up here. Just before we forget, I want to mention a few things. I know, you know, when we talk, we'll forget it. First thing is, and I think that's very much in your interest, to thank all speakers, all panelists, all the team in front of, behind the stage, technical staff, and not to forget the partners and friends. Well, we have, I think, tomorrow evening we have a bigger one, but just to mention it today. Second is tomorrow we continue at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, yeah. So please come back and, oh, your mic, yeah, microphone. And well, actually, the third is we have a short opportunity for
networking
after right now. Some drinks maybe or something.
I want to go back to what we have done today. I mean, it's very important that this Carmen startup story was really great. If I should have had this 20 years ago, it should have been much easier for me. So thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, thanks all the staff, the team, and also friends, which and partners which are supporting us from 20 years now, so which are on the list. And then I think that the technical can bring that tomorrow more, so they know. So it's a good experience. I think tomorrow will be a little bit more easy, but more tough in the way of learning more and more things.
So why should the guys come back tomorrow?
Tomorrow they will learn more. They will learn more, and you know, it sometimes looks that there is a lot of information, but it's something that what we need. This is all new, as I said. If I was 20 years ago and had this presentation from Carmen or from Simon, I should have done things better. So learn from the others is the best.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What was one or two of the highlights of today for you?
The commitment that I see from all the authorities, from the mayor, from the chairman of the city council, from the university, from the IT department, and all the students also. So I see that there is a lot of good things happening ahead. But I want to stress out again, what is important is that we have to pay attention to the most important aspect, which is teacher as a figure, or as a key institution, to give him the competence, to give him the right authority, which is today not in the right position. So that is what we have to work with all the authorities here, to give them the pride of being a teacher. Because I think it's shaking in a way. So what we have to bring it back, and I think that's where we have to start. And then of course the students will follow that. But if we tackle this, because the gaps in the communication and information in the teacher community is not that right, but if we tackle that, then we will, I think we will have a great future. And we, in our discussions with all this, we have agreed. And I remember from my experience, because it's, you know, there are two people that they will never forget. It's the worst teacher I had when I was in high school, and which is now my good friend, the best teacher, and the worst guy from Lufthansa, Uwe Müller, ex-guy of, who was telling the truth 7 years ago to all the business. You have to change. And today, he's the best teacher for me, because it happened already what he said. So don't forget, the worst teacher for you is the best teacher in your life for today. Yeah?
Well,
I mean it. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've finished. Yes.
So see you in the lobby, or then 10 o'clock tomorrow, and I hope you enjoyed the
Have a good night.
afternoon.
Thank you.